Hello and welcome back to yet another video on the Alejandro Hernandez podcast. These are going to be my official top 10 teams in the NFL after week 11. It was a pretty interesting week of football. We had the Denver Broncos upsetting the Kansas City Chiefs. We also had the Buffalo Bills getting a huge win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Ravens continued their win streak, and then the Rams got a huge win over the Seattle Seahawks. So a ton of storylines. There is going to be one new team in this week's edition of the top 10, and without further ado, let's get straight into this top 10. And coming in 10th, I'm going to have the Chicago Bears. This is going to be their first appearance on my top 10. They are first place in the NFC North, and I'm going to have them ahead of the Lions, and I'm going to have them ahead of the Packers. And I think Ben Johnson has just completely rebranded the culture of this franchise. He's completely turned around the cursed nature of this franchise, because last season with Caleb Williams in his rookie year, they were losing games. The Bears were inventing ways to lose games, whether it was Hail Marys, blocked field goals, missed field goals, Hail Marys by the opponent, just everything that could go wrong with the Bears went wrong last season, and now it feels like everything is going their way this year. This year, they're winning games by Hail Marys with the late touchdown from Colson Loveland against the Bengals. They're winning games on walk-off field goals, like this past week against the Vikings with Cairo Santos, and a few weeks back against the Washington Commanders in Washington with Jake Moody. And then on top of that, they're also blocking kicks. They blocked the field goal against the Raiders. They're just finding ways to win games, man, and it's really impressive. Since starting 0-2, they are 7-1. And I think that's the best record in all of football. Actually, no, I think the Broncos and Patriots have been on massive win streaks. But other than that, the Bears have been the hottest team in the NFL besides the Patriots and the Broncos since the beginning of this season. So you got to give massive credit to Ben Johnson for changing the culture in the Chicago Bears organization. And they're great on both sides of the ball, in my opinion. And Caleb Williams has been the biggest X factor for this team. They go as he goes, and he has been going in the fourth quarter of these games. He has been clutch when it matters most. But the problem with Caleb Williams is that he's been very inconsistent this season. He has not had massive great stretches of football so far this year. It's very inconsistent. He's had massive games like the one against the Bengals. Then he also has down games, like he has games where he's completing just over 50% of his passes, and the Bears have a lot of 3-and-outs, but they also have a lot of big plays. So it's kind of a roller coaster ride right now with Caleb Williams and the Bears offense. They have a lot of highs and they have a lot of lows, but if they can find their stride and if they can get those consistent highs without as many lows. And the thing about Caleb that I like is that he may be inconsistent with his accuracy, but he doesn't turn the ball over. He has pretty much been taking care of the football the entire season, the entirety of his NFL career. Even college, he wasn't a turnover-prone quarterback, and in the NFL, he has not been turnover-prone. He's taken care of the ball very well, but he's still kind of learning and adjusting to operating Ben Johnson's offense to its fullest potential, and they have the weapons to do so. So I think the Bears are going to get their footing, and I believe over the next couple of weeks, we're really going to find out if this Bears team is legit or not, because they play teams like Pittsburgh, they play the Eagles, they play the Lions, the Packers twice. So the Bears are going to get tested in the next coming of weeks, and I'm really excited to see how they respond. But for now, I'm going to keep them at number 10. They could be fraudulent, they could not be, they can end up winning the division, or they can end up not even making the playoffs. But my take on the Bears is that I do believe they are going to be fighting for the number 7 seed in the NFC like I predicted in the offseason. I had the Niners making it in over them, and in week 17, the Bears play the Niners on primetime. So that game is going to decide who is going to make the number 7 seed in the NFC. So for now, I'm going to have the Bears at number 10. Now, coming in at my number 9 spot, I'm going to have the Baltimore Ravens. And they got an impressive win this week over the Cleveland Browns. Winning in Cleveland is not an easy task, and they played a hard-fought defensive battle. And I like that they didn't have to rely on Lamar Jackson to win. Lamar had an off game with 2 turnovers and no touchdowns. However, they were still able to get the job done. They were able to run the ball effectively with Derrick Henry having over 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. And then defensively, they were able to get timely turnovers and a ton of sacks. So credit to this Ravens team for continuing the win streak. They're on a 4-game win streak, and they're playing good football on both sides of the ball. They're running the ball well. They're playing great defense. They're playing complementary football. And this team's on a roll. And their schedule gets even easier. They play the Jets this week at home. They're 14-point favorites at home. They should win that game decisively. And the Ravens are going to have a winning record after starting 1-5. So it's been a massive turnaround. I expected this turnaround to happen because the beginning of their schedule was an absolute gauntlet. And they had to play it without Lamar Jackson. But now they have him back healthy. They have Derrick Henry reaching his stride late in the season. And they have their defense reaching its stride late in the season. So give Baltimore credit. I'm going to have them at number 9. I cannot have them over the Chiefs and the Bills because they lost to both those teams this season. So I'm going to keep them at number 9. Now coming in at number 8, it's going to be the Indianapolis Colts once again. I'm going to keep them in this number 8 spot until they beat a contender. and they play the Chiefs this week in Arrowhead. This is going to be by far their biggest test of the season. And I know I had the Chiefs beating the Broncos last week, but that was in Denver. So I have a lot more faith in Kansas City to pull out the victory this week against the Colts because this game is in Arrowhead. And it's Arrowhead. The Chiefs have been very, very good this year at home. They've only lost one game at home, and that was to the Eagles. They have not been a good road team, but they've been a great home team. So in this particular matchup between the Chiefs and the Colts, I prefer to pick the Chiefs because I trust their quarterback, their head coach, and their defense more than I trust the Colts right now with Daniel Jones and that defense. And I understand the Colts are coming off a bye, and I don't think that losing to the Chiefs, there's no shame in losing to the Chiefs. And if they can get the win, then I'll have a lot of respect for them. But for now, I'm going to keep them at my number 8 spot because I just don't believe right now they're a better team than Kansas City. And I don't think they're built to beat Kansas City because I don't think Daniel Jones is good enough to outplay Patrick Mahomes in this spot. So give me the Colts at my number 8 spot. I still have a lot of respect for their run game, and their defense has been pretty good but not great. So I need to see how they play this weekend in order for me to properly rank them. This is going to be their biggest test of the season, and we're going to see if Daniel Jones is up to the task and if he's either going to get exposed or he's going to play well. And if he plays well, then I'll have a lot of respect for the Colts, and I'll probably have them higher on this list. But for now, I'm going to keep them at my number 8 spot. And yeah, with that being said, I'm going to have the Chiefs one spot ahead of the Colts at my number 7 spot. And I know they just lost to the Broncos. That was a shocking loss. I was in total shock watching that game. Bo Nix completely outplayed Patrick Mahomes. And I think that's a testament to Denver's defense. I think Denver's defense is far and away the best in the league. They have an excellent pass rush, an excellent pass defense, and an excellent run defense. They're pretty much just great at all phases of the game defensively. And then Bo Nix played mistake-free football. He made some massive throws down the field. That 3rd and 15 conversion at the 2-minute warning was incredible. So give the Broncos a ton of credit. They proved a lot of their doubters wrong, and they completely eliminated that fraud watch that they had going on after that win against the Raiders last week. They completely ended those talks, and Denver now has a 4-game lead on the Chiefs in the division. So I had predicted that Denver was going to battle with Kansas City to win the division this year, and they might end up doing it. So massive credit to Denver. I'm not going to kill Kansas City for that loss. I still think they're an excellent team. I still think Kansas City is going to be one of the premier teams in the AFC, and I still think they're poised to make a deep playoff run. But something that is worth noting is that they're 0-5 in one-score games this year. So they were 11-0 in one-score games last year, but they're 0-5 in one-score games this year. So that is a very, very interesting stat. And that just means that their luck and their situational football has not been the same as it has been in years past. So that's very concerning. I expect them to get their shit together. And that starts this week against the Colts. I expect them to beat the Colts this week because they are at home and their home field advantage is real, and I expect them to neutralize Jonathan Taylor because historically when they play great running backs, they usually tend to slow them down. So I expect the Chiefs to contain Jonathan Taylor and force the Colts to beat them by making Daniel Jones throw against them, and we're going to see how that matchup plays out. So for now, I'm going to have the Chiefs one spot ahead of the Colts. However, I cannot have the Chiefs ahead of the Denver Broncos. I'm going to rise the Denver Broncos up to my number 6 spot. I had them completely out of the top 10 in this past week's power rankings. I had the Chargers and the Chiefs over them. The Chargers ended up losing 35-6, so obviously I have to drop them out, and the Broncos just beat the Chiefs. And that was a massive win. It's probably the biggest Denver Bronco win since the Peyton Manning days. It's been a while since Denver's been this good, and you got to give a lot of credit to Bo Nix. He proved a lot of his doubters wrong in this game. And his main issue was, well, he can't really throw from the pocket. He has happy feet. He has accuracy issues. And I think the thing with Bo Nix is that when it matters the most, he plays at his best. And that's a very important attribute to have as a quarterback. We've seen it so many times this season when the Broncos have been trailing in games, and he has willed them back to victory with his arm. He did it against the Giants. He did it against the Eagles. He did it against the Chiefs this week. He's done it so many times, time and time again, in big spots. He is coming up for his team. And that builds confidence in the locker room. And to top that off with the amazing defense they have, I believe they have far and away the best defense in the league. That pass rush with Jonathan Cooper, Zach Allen, Nick Bonito, and then the linebacking core with Dre Greenlaw, and then the secondary with Hufanga and Pat Surtain. They won this game without Pat Surtain. They held Rashee Rice to 38 yards and Xavier Worthy to 25 yards. That is a massive achievement. That is a massive testament to their defense and next man up. Without their defensive player of the year, they played excellent football against the Chiefs' top receivers, so that's definitely worth noting. So give massive credit to Denver. Huge win this week, proving all their doubters wrong. They are a legit AFC contender this season, and they have a real shot at getting the number 1 seed in the AFC, so give them a ton of credit. I'm going to have them at my number 6 spot. However, I cannot have them above my number 5 team. and my number 5 team is going to be the Buffalo Bills. And they got a huge win this week against Tampa Bay, and they showed me something. They showed me that they can go toe-to-toe with any offense in the NFL. Josh Allen with 6 total touchdowns. This is what he's capable of. He's not obviously not going to do this every week, but the Bills have different ways to win. They can win playing great defense. They can win running the ball with James Cook for over 200 yards like they did against the Panthers, or they could win like this. They could win like they did this week, and they can win like they did in week 1, with Josh Allen putting on his Superman cape and willing them to victory. The Bills have so many different ways to win, and I think that's what makes them a very good team, and that's what makes them my Super Bowl pick. I have total faith that Josh Allen will get it done in the biggest of moments, and he did that again this week. And the Chiefs losing and the Bills winning was a huge step towards the Bills potentially getting the number 1 seed in the AFC, and they still have a battle against the Patriots left later in the season. We're going to see how that goes, but for right now, I'm going to have the Bills at my number 5 spot as the second best team in the AFC. I cannot have them above the New England Patriots because of the way the Patriots have been playing so far this year, and the Patriots did beat them head-to-head. So that's why I'm going to have the Bills at my number 5 spot. If I had to take either the Bills or the Broncos today, I would take the Bills because I trust Josh Allen and I trust James Cook, and I trust that running game and the passing game of the Bills to outscore Bo Nix and the Broncos. Now for my number 4 spot, I'm going to have the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to drop them down 1 spot after losing to the Rams on a walk-off field goal. I'm not going to panic on Seattle at all. And it's honestly astonishing that despite Sam Darnold throwing 4 interceptions, they had a chance to win this game with a walk-off field goal. That is incredible. That's a testament to their defense. They played a great game against Matthew Stafford and the Rams. However, what this game came down to was the turnovers. The Rams won the turnover margin 4-0. That was the difference in this game, and that's why I'm hesitant to have Seattle as the best team in the NFL or to trust them come playoff time, because this is what Sam Darnold does in big games. He turns the ball over, and the Seahawks cannot afford this come playoff time. They cannot afford the turnovers. They cannot afford the sacks. And this is what Sam Darnold does in big games. He's shown it time and time again. The Rams clearly have his number because last season Sam Darnold lost 2 games to the Rams, one in the regular season and one in the playoffs, and he took 9 sacks in that playoff game. And then this year against the Rams in the first matchup, he throws 4 picks. So the Rams clearly have Sam Darnold's number. That's something to note later on in the season. And we'll see how everything plays out. I do believe Seattle is going to be a wild card team this year, and they're going to be one of the best wild card teams, and they'll probably win their first round playoff game. But they're not good enough to be the best team in the league because the Rams showed them how it's done. And I'm going to have the Seahawks at number 4. And then now coming in at my number 3 spot, I'm going to have the New England Patriots. I'm going to drop them down a spot because I have to rise Philadelphia after beating the Lions. But the Patriots, I talked about them last week because I did release my top 10 video after the Patriots went on Thursday Night Football. Drake May is playing at an extremely high level. That defense is playing at a high level. And this week they have a layup against the Bengals, which they should win. And Drake May is playing great football. They have finally the breakout performance of Travion Henderson, and they're just playing excellent complementary football. This team is going to be a force, and they have a clear path to either the AFC divisional round or the championship game. They're playing great football. I trust Drake May in big spots, and I trust that defense to play great against great quarterbacks. So that's why I like the Patriots as my 3rd best team in the NFL and the best team in the AFC. However, I cannot have them above Philadelphia. I'm going to have the Eagles at 2 because just look at their track record this year. Yeah, you can point out how they haven't been beating opponents the way that they should, and their wins are ugly, but the fact of the matter is they're winning. They have beaten the Lions, the Packers, the Bucks, the Rams, the Chiefs. They've beaten every single top-tier contender that they've played besides the Broncos. They've beaten all of them, and they had a 17-3 lead on the Broncos. The Eagles are just winners. They win. It's simple as that. They're 24-3 in their past 27 games. That is just a ridiculous stat. And they just find ways to win. Jalen Hurts has not played up to his caliber this year. The passing game has not looked great. The run game hasn't even looked as good as it was last year. However, the Eagles just find ways to win, and you got to respect that. So I'm going to have them as my number 2 team in the NFL. And I think that they're just going to find ways to win later on in the year. However, the way that they are winning, I don't think is sustainable. So they are going to have to fix that. Offensively, I believe their defense is why I have them as the 2nd-ranked team in the NFL, because their defense is playing at an extremely high level, and it's because of their defense that they're winning these games, not because of their offense. So they do have to get their shit together on offense. However, their defense is built to win a championship. They're playing excellent football under Vic Fangio. He has figured it out, and that's why I'm going to have the Eagles at 2. However, I cannot have them at my number one spot. The Rams are going to remain the top team in the NFL after 2 weeks. This is going to be the second week I have my Rams as the best team in the NFL, and that's because Matthew Stafford right now is the front runner to win MVP. The Rams are the Super Bowl favorites, and they should be. Their defense is playing lights out, and that's credit to their defensive coordinator for having that unit completely playing great football. The breakout of Emmanuel Forbes at cornerback was huge. They traded for Roger McCreary at the trade deadline, so they have addressed the cornerback position. Guys are stepping up in that room, and if they have guys stepping up in that room, that's really their only weakness was their cornerback room. So now they fixed that. Their pass rush is still great. Their offensive line is playing really good despite not having big name players. They're running the ball really well. Matthew Stafford's playing at an MVP level. So with all those factors combined, the Rams are without a doubt the best team in the NFL. And that is going to do it for this week's Power Rankings. I will see you guys tomorrow when I release my Week 12 picks. But until then, I will see you guys next time.